What's going on, friends? Logan Myers here for Cinephellas.com, and tonight we're going to talk about a film surrounding vampires. I'm talking about 1994's film Interview with a Vampire, starring Kirsten, Slater, Brad Pitt, Kirsten Dunst, and Tom Cruise. Interview with a Vampire is directed by Neil Jordan. The screenplay is written by Anne Rice, and the book is obviously by the author Anne Rice as well, and it's a novel adapted for the big screen. Beginning of the film starts off with Christian Slater, a journalist in California, is interviewing Louis, played by Brad Pitt, about his life of being a vampire and seeing the world through the eyes of the vampire. So throughout the film, we learn of Louis' past and how he became the vampire that's still around 200 years later. They show when he was turned into a vampire in 1791 in Louisiana. He was turned to a bloodsucker by none other than Lestat himself. Tom Cruise basically turns Louis and opens up the rest of the film. So Louis and Lestat live in Louisiana, New Orleans. Back in the 1700s, they had slaves and things like that. So you see the lives of these two vampires and how they're feasting on slaves and other people around to survive. They never age, they never die, but they need to feast on blood to survive. And these are two great performances by Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. They have a really great chemistry on camera together, and especially they're playing two vampires. It's kind of an odd role for these two actors back in the 90s, but they really pulled it off. And, from reading the book and then seeing on the big screen, they played the part well. Then we come across Claudia, a young Kirsten Dunst. Her family is hit by the plague, and Lestat turns her into a vampire, and she kind of is taken under the wing of Louis and Lestat moving forward in Louisiana. It's pretty interesting to see a young actress play a vampire. Kirsten Dunst just portraying this creature of the night. The first half of the movie is really showing their lives in the 1700s in Louisiana. And then we're introduced to Antonio Banderas and his group of vampires, a society of vampires that have been around for many, many centuries in their underground catacombs of France, and seeing Louis, meet these other vampires in a different part of the world and seeing all the different personalities and how they're incorporated with the theater there and really understanding their story and how long they've been around. So throughout the film, you see these different, decades, different centuries of Louis and Lestat and these other characters, and how they all come to 1990, 200 years later, and how some have survived and some have not. And I think they really did a great job with, going from the 1700s to the 1990s. Each century, they're able to keep the whole set design and the costume design perfect to that era and making sure that they fit into whatever time they were talking about. Coming up to the end, where Christian Slater is ending the interview with Louis and really understanding and seeing the world through a vampire's eyes, and to see that something like this could, never age and can live through 300-400 years and have seen so much history and, wars and things that have happened in the world, and to see it through their eyes and start to feel some compassion towards Louis' character. He's much like a human. He has compassion, he cares. With Anne Rice writing the screenplay off the book, the novel that she wrote, they kept it pretty close to the book, with, Neil directing this film. He had the vision and the story there, and they just had to put it together. Overall, I love Interview with a Vampire. It's a film that still holds up to, 2017, even though it was put out in the 90s. It's a great film to watch during the Halloween season. Great cast of actors: Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, Antonio Banderas, Christian Slater, Kirsten Dunst. Great cast, great film, one of the better vampire films in my opinion. So if you guys have not seen it, you should definitely check it out. I'm going to give Interview with a Vampire a 4 out of 5. Hail pieces. What'd you like about this film? What didn't you like about this film? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe. This is Logan Myers signing out from the sweet southern plantation in Louisiana. Woo! Until next time, cheers!